All right, YouTube, I've got a log jam of stuff I've been trying to get to, and well, finally we're gonna get to the first 5 things I've completed recently. I'm already working on the next batch. I've already got a couple more things down, but yeah, things just got a little out of hand on my week off. I don't know why I didn't have time to shoot this video, but because I really didn't do anything. But I don't know. It's weird. I was busy, even though I was doing nothing. Figure that out. Anyways, we're very book heavy on this particular edition. First up, the third and final book in the Maztica trilogy, The Feathered Dragon. So, if you remember what happened at the end of the last book, the battle in Nexel turned into chaos. All the followers of Nexel, or of Zaltek, got turned into orcs and trolls and whatever, and all of the Golden Legion and the regular Nexalans and the Kultakans, all the people that were there as Cordell's army, were all trying to flee the city. Eric's and Halloran were fleeing, and the land was like rupturing and things were flooding and burning, and if you remember how that ended. So we pick up not long after those events. So things have shifted in the land of Maztica, and as they flee southwards from Nexel after all that chaos, they find suddenly in the desert things are starting to grow a little bit. There's some vegetation, there's some water sources springing up here and there. So this change in the city of Nexel has affected more than just that city itself. There's other changes happening. So all these people are fleeing from that chaos in Nexel, and all the trolls and orcs and all that shit are basically chasing them down. So it's kind of like a long, drawn out kind of chase scene, I guess, in a way. And Eric's and Halloran de Grande and a young warrior named Jatley, who sees a bunch of his people murdered while he's out scouting, kind of joins their little band. And Poshley, who was an Eagle Knight, who after the events of the chaos in Nexel got turned permanently into an eagle, he makes his presence known to Eric's and Halloran, and she figures out that this eagle is actually Poshley, and he seems to be leading them somewhere in the sky. So Eric's is like, we have to follow Poshley. He's trying to lead us and tell us something and show us something. So for the time being, their direction is south, so they're traveling with the masses of everybody that's fleeing. But eventually they have to split off from that mass. So Cordell, who is still leading his Golden Legion. Then there's Chikal, who is leading the Nexalans. And then I forget the guy that's leading the Kultakans. But they break off, and they're supposed to head to some sort of oasis that's rumored to exist, where they will be able to settle down and eat and drink for more than just a couple days before they wear the sources out. So they're headed to that oasis, whereas Halloran, Eric's de Grande, and Poshley are following, Jatley are following Poshley, who is leading them from the sky to some mysterious location. Now, while this chase is going on, there's a couple of other things happening. Darian, the dark elf, who got turned into a Drider, so basically a perverted giant spider with a dark elf torso. She is leading her band of Driders to the far Payet, to the far coast, where Halloran and the Golden Legion originally landed when they got to Maztica and kicked all this crazy sequence of events off. Because she has some inside info on where she thinks this whole story is going to end. So she's headed that way. And the spider god Lolth, she perverted a bunch of ants and turned them into huge ants. So they're massive, and they are chewing their way across the land with the Driders at their lead and basically murdering anybody that gets in the way. So that's going on. And then the other thing that's going on is that the Sun Dwarfs, who Gultek, who was an Eagle Knight, or was he a Jaguar Knight? I don't remember. I think he was a Jaguar Knight. He trained with one of the Sun Dwarves in the second book and got some perspective on the whole situation of what was going on, and eventually came back and joined all these forces that are fleeing south to help them out. And he's spearheading kind of the fight against Darien and the giant ants. But the sun dwarfs that trained Galtech, one of them has a vision, and he sees everything that's going on with the giant ants and Eric's, and the return of Kotal being blocked by Zaltek, this kind of clash of the gods. And so he's like, he gets all the tribes together of the sun dwarves, and he's like, we need to mobilize, we need to go help these people out, because this could be the end of, we're pretty remote here, but if this is allowed to happen, we're also going to be toast eventually, right? So we need to go join this cause and help out and help them win this. So they join the fray, and they pull Eric's and Halloran's ass out of the fire. And so it's all these different kind of groups engaging with each other and moving across the land to whatever location they seem to be headed to. So where Poshley was guiding Eric's and Halloran was to an ancient city called Tawaka or something like that, which I think was the original city of the gods. It's been abandoned for years, but it's still standing there in all of its majesticness. And so Poshley leads them there because this is one of the couple places in Mastika where the god Kotal can finally make his return and reanimate. However, Zaltek, the god of war and nastiness, took a physical form as a giant stone statue, and he has been steadily marching south towards this ancient city because he knows Kotal's going to try and come back. So as our heroes get to that city and try and facilitate the return of Kotal, Zaltek and all these hobgoblin forces show up and cause all sorts of shit for our heroes, and they block Kotal's return to the realm. So they barely escape with their lives, and they move on to the next idea, and they kind of, it takes them a while to figure it out, but they're like, where else would Kotal be able to return, have the power to return to this land? And they're like, where it all began, at the Twin Visages. So the Twin Visages is in Far Payet, and it was the place where Cordell and his Golden Legion originally landed at the start of this story. And there's these two giant faces carved into the cliff face, looking out towards the sea, expecting the return of Kotal. So this is the only other place that Kotal can return. So in the end, we have all the different forces, all of the good forces, including the Golden Legion. Well, the Golden Legion actually fights a battle nearby in Ulatos, but they're over on that side of the land and trying to do their part to protect Halloran and Eric's from people from getting to them and blocking what they're trying to do in facilitating that return of Kotal at this new area. And so, but everything leads towards that, and all these parties come together and whatever. So the end is a big battle between the two gods, as Kotal tries to reanimate and Zaltek again tries to come block him. The two of them square off in this death match. And I'm not going to tell you how it ends in case you ever are interested in reading this book. But the heroes usually win in this book, in these books. They usually do. And yeah, it was just I've kind of arranged these Forgotten Realms trilogies and series and everything in an order from looking at the covers, like, oh, okay, I think I'm really going to like this series, so I'm going to put it near the end. I'm going to read that last. I kind of like want to read the ones I don't think I'll like the best first and then finish strong, sort of thing. So this one has been closer to the start of the series because it looked interesting, but it didn't look as interesting as a lot of the other ones I've put further in my reading list. But I ended up really liking this series, and it was these three books are those books where the type is really small. So even though it's a regular sized book and everything, it's actually more than you expect because the type is smaller. So I was like, oh no, this is going to take me forever to finish. But as I got going in this series, I just ended up loving it. It's so much fun. It's such a good story. So yeah, super happy that I picked up that trilogy. And soon we'll be on to the next one. And hopefully I didn't judge wrong and the next one's a dud, right? Hopefully they just continue to get stronger. Anyways, next up, and that book was from originally published in 1991. No, yeah, 91. Next up, this book is from a few years earlier, 1988. It is G.I. Joe, The Sultan's Secret. So this book, it starts with some U.S. government secret projects lab. The couple of scientists start getting excited about a discovery they've made, and they start talking. But soon enough, the alarm starts going off, and a Cobra vessel digs through the rock, or the outer shell of this facility, whatever it is, and penetrates. Uh-oh, I gotta sneeze. Oh, balls. And although they tried to get their shields up in time, it doesn't quite seal off this vessel, and so the Cobra Vipers are able to exfiltrate the vehicle, infiltrate the facility, find what they're looking for, and attempt to exfiltrate. But the problem is their vessel is stuck kind of in this shield. In the meantime, a distress call has been sent out to the government, so G.I. Joe, the G.I. Joe team is mobilized very quickly, and they're sent to this facility to try and repel this Cobra attack and prevent them from taking whatever it is they're taking. So there's quite a few Joes on this mission. Hawk, one of the big dogs, leads it. There's Psych Out, Sneak Peek, Chuckles, Jinx, Roadblock, Gung Ho. Did I say Chuckles? Maybe there's one. Lifeline, Low Light. I think that's all. Some really good characters. So they get there, but and they put up a fight, but Cobra's eventually able to escape. So afterwards, the Joes are talking to the scientists, being like, what exactly did they steal? And they're like, well, we found this isotope that can like put living beings in suspended animation. So they show them that these mice or whatever that they've been working on, that these two mice appear just to be asleep, but it's like, no, they've been knocked out for like weeks and weeks, and they're not aging. Like, they're literally in suspended animation. So this is huge. Like, in the future, like when we finally develop space travel and whatever, if it takes light years to get to some planet, people can be put, in suspended animation, and they won't age, and then they'll get to their destination, be the same age, and be able to pick up, right where they left off when they went to sleep, sort of thing. But they're all like, why the hell is Cobra after this? Like, what interests this about this to them, So they try and figure it out, and eventually they plan a raid on Dr. Mindbender's lab, and I think Roadblock and Jinx get captured. And eventually it all leads to, I can't remember what country it is, but there's this old sultan named Boabdil, something like that. It's a really strange name. And I don't know if this is real or not, or if this is just made up for the book. I assume it's made up for the book, but you never know, right? So he was rumored in ancient times to have an army that couldn't be stopped. They didn't have to eat, they didn't have to sleep, they were pretty much impervious to being, damaged. So Mindbender and Serpentor, who act like an old married couple in this book, it's pretty funny to witness the repartee back and forth between these two evil idiots. They go to this, it's a temple or something like that in whatever country it is, looking for the secret to unlocking, along with this isotope that they've stolen from this lab, the key to unlocking what exactly it is they want to do with this isotope at this temple. So the Joes finally figure it out, and they intercept them there, and a big fight erupts, and they find a diary from, I think, that Boabdil guy, and Cobra ultimately escapes with it, but the Joes are able to almost get it from them, but a whole bunch of pages fall out. Even though Cobra escapes with the bulk of the journal, a bunch of pages fall out, so the Joes round them up in case, this information's of any value to them, sort of thing. So Cobra eventually puts their plan into effect, and they use this isotope to they infect a bunch of their soldiers with this isotope, and they were going to give the isotope as well to, I think, Jinx and Roadblock, who were captured, but they slimed their way out of taking it, and so the Joes kind of interrupt this ceremony, or this reveal of these soldiers that have taken this isotope, and at first the isotope seems to work. The Joes engage these troops, but they can't hurt them. And it's like, holy shit, how are we going to win this fight? Like, we can't kill these guys. We can't damage these guys. Like, we're screwed. But I think it's Hawk says, guys, don't worry about it. Just keep staying alive. Just keep fighting back, staying alive. Just give it time. So what happened was the data from these missing pages of the diary that the Joes intercepted and took into their possession, they were analyzed, and they figured out, oh, okay, we see what's going on here. So Cobra used the diary to develop this isotope and what they think was going to lead them to this grand army that's undefeatable and indefatigable. Indefatigable? Whatever. But without the pages that the Joe stole from the diary, they didn't have the full information on this isotope. So although their troops acted like they were invulnerable at first because they were actually accelerated aging. So right before their eyes during this fight, these Cobra troops that seem unbeatable and like you can't even make them flinch, all of a sudden they start aging and turning into, oh boy, my back is hurting. They're turning into old people and eventually just collapse on the ground and are like super old and shit. And Serpentor and Mindbender are like, what the fuck? so the Joes are like, and yeah, you didn't have all the info. We'll be kicking your ass now, right? So the Joes got the last laugh on them in the end, with knowing exactly what was going to go down with this isotope. So good story. Again, these are children's books. These are 100, like a little over 100-page books with big type, simple stories. But like I've said many times before, my favorite franchises, I don't care if it's meant for a 6-year-old or for an adult. I want to know all the stories. As childish as some of them might be, I want to read everything. I want to know everything, even though it goes in one area and out the other eventually. I love to just explore every aspect of all my favorite franchises. So it's just how I do. Next up, from 1997, another book, the second book in the, second book in the Xena Warrior Princess series, The Huntress and the Sphinx. So, and these Xena stories, so far it looks like this story comes right after the first one I read. So they mentioned in the start of this book, yeah, we're on our way to Athens after dealing with, I forget where they were, in Ithaca, dealing with that situation with all the army that was taking over that island kingdom or whatever. So like the stories seem to really lead right into the next. In this one, Xena and Gabrielle are making their way to Athens and through Athens on Gabrielle's wishes, because they are currently holding a series of foot races in Athens, and it's the girls that are running at the current time. So Gabrielle is really excited to see these girls racing against each other. She's particularly excited to see one girl whose name is Atalanta, and she's a renowned huntress, and she's super fast, can't be beat, and she even has a couple of legendary fables that she's pulled off in the past. So when they get there, Atalanta isn't running yet. They're starting with the really young girls. So Gabrielle and Xena watch this one girl race around the track and figure out afterwards that she's actually blind. So while they were watching the race, like there was this other girl running in front of her with a rope attached to each other, and eventually she would let go of the rope. Like it was just basically guiding her, like here's the track sort of thing, like go ahead and run. And so afterwards, Gabrielle and Xena meet up with these girls, and Gabrielle is so impressed. She's like, oh my God, that was amazing. Like, what's your name? So the girl that was running really fast, the blind girl, was named Nausicaa. She was some sort of princess to a nearby kingdom. And her friend was Mitradia, and she's like, I'm not as fast as Nausicaa. I can only hang in there to make sure she's getting to where she needs to go. So Gabrielle really takes a liking to these girls, and they come across them a couple more times during the day and whatever. And finally, Atalanta arrives and is ready for her heats. But she seems to be like, Gabrielle notices that she seems to be acting very strangely, very looking over her shoulder type of thing, very anxious and nervous. And she races well and wins and everything. But eventually, I think just before the finals, maybe, or something like that, some ne'er-do-wells raid the races and kidnap a handful of the young girls, including Nausicaa and Matradia. So afterwards, Xena and Gabrielle are investigating and being like, did you see who it was? Whatever, blah, blah, blah. And Xena and Atalanta have had a couple of conversations to this point, but it's obvious that they know each other and have encountered each other before and do not like each other. So there's history there. So Xena's like, yeah, we'll get the girls back. Don't worry about that. And Atalanta's like, I'll get the girls back. I'm the renowned Huntress. I'm super fast. So fuck you, Xena. But Xena makes it so that we'll do it together. So they set off and they're trying to track down these girls. And eventually, because weird things keep happening on this journey, and they're not trusting. I mean, Xena doesn't trust Atalanta to begin with, but the way she's behaving, like, it's even more sus. So eventually they figure out that Atalanta actually got some of the people from her village, including two of the guys that raised her, to stage a kidnapping of these girls so that Atalanta could rescue them and come back as a hero, sort of thing, because she's insecure and whatever, and she wanted to increase her stock in fables and whatnot, right? So Xena's like, are you fucking kidding me, you selfish bitch? And in the meantime, things actually escalated because the people that kidnapped the girls ran into the Sphinx, like the Sphinx, the one that makes you solve a riddle she gives you, or if you fail, she eats you. So Gabrielle and Xena and Atalanta and one of the guys that cared for her, they have to devise a plan on getting the girls back from the Sphinx. And of course, it involves answering the Sphinx's riddles and tricking the Sphinx into giving the girls back by defeating her in this riddle contest. Oh, and one of the other main characters in the story is Homer, like the Homer who wrote the Iliad and the Odyssey and all that shit. So he is a bard, and him and Gabrielle have met each other before and have a friendship and whatever. So and Gabrielle wants to be a bard as well, so she naturally gets on really well with Homer and really admires him. So he joins them on their adventures as well and plays some parts and everything. Yeah, so in the end, there's this kind of showdown between Xena, Gabrielle, Homer, and Atalanta against the Sphinx, and they have to really be careful in how they handle it in order to not only get away with their own lives, but take back these young girls from the Sphinx, who doesn't really want to let them go. So yeah, very good book. I find those Xena books are I just fly through them. They're real page turners. They're so easy to read. And the way they're written, they really, like, Gabrielle, I found in that show, was a very innocent and naive kind of character. And I find they capture her character in these books really well with her excitement and enthusiasm and kind of just her tendency to be a little bit more naive and stuff. So really fun books so far. I've read 2 of them. I got a couple more in my stack, and of course I've got a whole bunch on wishlist in my Thrift Books app. So we'll see. We'll see if I get some more. Next up, the 4th book. Holy shit, right? The 2nd book in the Young Indiana Jones series, Indiana Jones and the Tomb of Terror. This book was fun. It was good regardless, but there was one little cool little aspect of it that I really liked. So this book was written in 1990 and takes place in 1913. So Indy's dad, Henry Jones Sr., he's off doing something, and he can't take Indy with him because he's doing something important and boring. I can't remember where. But Marcus Brody, Henry's confidant, is going to Egypt to purchase try to purchase some relics for his museum at home back in the States. And Indy's dad is like, well, why don't you take Indy with you? That'd be a perfect chance for him to see the pyramids and all that shit and have a good time. And so Marcus is like, okay. So they get to Egypt, and Marcus is like, you know, are you going to be okay on your own? Like, I'm just going to meet with people and try and buy stuff. It's going to be real boring. Like, you know, are you good? And Indy's like, fuck yeah, I'm good. Like, I'm going to go see the pyramids. And Marcus is like, well, be careful. It's, you know, you're a young kid, you're a tourist here, like you could be taken advantage of. And Indy's like, I'll be fine. So then he goes off on his own and he goes in search of a guide, and eventually runs into a young local kid who Indy takes a real liking to, and he offers Indy to show Indy everything he wants to see, and for super cheap too. And the name of this young child is Salah. So this is like Indy and Salah's like original meeting story kind of thing. So as soon as I saw the name come up in the book, I'm like, Salah. So if you're not familiar with Salah, he is like in the Raiders of the Lost Ark, when they go to Egypt and they're digging in the pyramids and stuff like that. Salah's the guy that kind of helps Indy there and shelters him for a bit and everything. And he shows up through the rest of the movies and is just a really likable character and one of Indy's best friends. So, you know, to see him show up in this book as kind of an origin story, I was like, this is fucking awesome already. And I'm like 20 pages into the book, right? So Indy and Salah go look at the pyramids. He shows Indy everything. They have a great old time. So at the end of the day, like, they're going back to the city, and Salah's like, I'd like to give you a chance to buy something, you know, a true relic from here to take home with you. And he shows Indy this ring. And Marcus and Indy had a discussion beforehand about it. How they're gonna people are gonna try and sell you trinkets and passing them off as legit relics and valuable things, right? And so Indy just thinks with this ring, he's like, come on, Salah, like, we had a good day, just stop, you know. And he's like, no, like 100 US and this is yours, and it's legit, like, look at it. So Indy starts looking at it and he's like, holy fuck, this is a crazy nice ring, like, this is legit. So then Indy's like, how did you get this, and why are you giving it to me for so cheap? And he's like, well, times are tough here for us normal people in Egypt, so my cousin actually stole it from a guy at the hotel he works at, blah blah blah. And Indy's like, okay, I can't buy this, and you can't do this, like, you can't steal. And but then Salah's like, well, it came from this guy that's excavating a site that he shouldn't be excavating, and he's taking this with him, which he shouldn't be. You know, he's basically a grave robber, right? So then Indy's like, who is it? He's like, I don't know. My cousin didn't know who it was. He just knows it's room 42 at the hotel he works at. So Indy's like, I got one better for you. Let's go to the hotel. I'll finagle my way in there. We'll put the ring back in his suitcase, and then we'll engineer a way for him to get caught with it, which will blow his whole cover about digging at this gravesite and get him in trouble, and make sure that this piece ends up in a museum, sort of thing. So they go to the hotel, and Indy's trying to find or be allowed access up to this guy's room, and he gets in a discussion with the bellhop or whatever. And it's like, yeah, I need the room 42, like, I know him, whatever. So just so happens the guy who's in room 42 is standing behind Indy at this point as he's come back into the hotel. He goes, I'm from room 42, like, who are you? So the guy's name is Gustav von Trappen or something like that. So he's a German archaeologist, and Indy's heard of him before because of his father. So Indy's able to make up like a little ruse, like, oh, my father, you know, told me I should come looking for you. He knew you'd be here and whatever. And the guy's like, who's your father? He's like, Henry Jones. It's like, oh, Henry Jones, blah blah blah. So Indy covers for himself, but they're unable to get the ring back in Gustav's possession. So I think it was that night or maybe the next night, they decide to go looking for the site where von Trappen is digging, and they find it, and it looks like nothing's really going on there, but they discover that von Trappen has his men digging at night, so nobody will notice them digging during the day in the sunlight, because he's basically found Tutankhamun's tomb, and he wants to take all the riches for himself. So he's trying to keep the dig on the down low so he doesn't get in trouble. So Indy and Salah raid this site and see what they can find. but eventually get caught. And while they're running from these guys, they get caught in this chamber under the ground inside this tomb, and Indy has the ring on his possession, and they find this statue with a finger that's pointing, and Indy's like, and he sees some wear on the finger, and he's like, I think this ring actually came from this. So he puts it on, and then the Ka of Tutankhamun, I guess the Ka is like the spirit version of the person when they die. The Ka comes alive, and the boys are like, whoa. And they're like, and the Ka's like, boys, you need to get this guy caught and seal up my tomb, and go warn these guys, if they continue to take stuff from this tomb, a great curse is going to fall on them. So when Sala and Indy are eventually caught in deep in the tomb by Von Trappen and his goons, they basically tell these guys that, and they're like, yeah, right, okay, whatever. But eventually Indy and Sala are able to escape, and eventually it all leads to they get taken captive again, I think, or they sneak onto Von Trappen's ship or something like that, and they get caught. So there's this big chase on the ship, and eventually they jump overboard to try and escape Von Trappen and his men, and Indy reveals the ring on his finger, and the power of the Ka actually blows up Von Trappen's boat and kills everybody. Which of course brings the authorities running, and so the authorities eventually figure out what's been going on here, and so everything in the end is set to rights. And I can't remember if Sala gives Indy the ring to take back with him, or if it stays in the tomb. I can't remember, but something happens with the ring. But either way, Von Trappen is killed, and they're not taking anything from the site, and the Egyptian authorities are in charge of that dig now. So all's well that ends well for Indy and his good friend Sala. All right, last up, a movie this time, and I've been looking very, very forward to this since I heard it was coming out, and we watched it. I think the first night it was out, me and James watched it, and I know it's got mixed reviews so far, but we laughed our asses off the entire time. I found this movie to be so, so good. And said movie is Happy Gilmore 2. So this movie just came out July 25th, a couple weeks ago or whatever. And I always was hoping for a Happy Gilmore sequel back in the 90s or early 2000s, thinking this would be a good flick to make another of, right? And when it didn't really happen, I thought, okay, well, that's obviously the end of Happy Gilmore. So when it was announced 30 years later that Sandler's working on a sequel, I was like, fucking A! And I had a feeling it was going to be really good. Like I said, I think it's got mixed reviews so far, but we just loved it. It was so funny. So the story behind it is that after the first movie, like he won the PGA championship and sent Shooter McGavin off to hell, golf hell, by beating him. And so after that moment, he won, I think, 5 championships in a row, and he was just flying. He was the big name on the tour. But in 2014, disaster struck, and on one of his long drives, it kind of went a little wide of the fairway, and his wife, is it Vivian? Yeah, Vivian, I think. Julie Bowen, so hot. She's standing off to the side, and she kind of looks up at the drive and goes, uh-oh. He kills her with a drive. So with the guilt in the shift in life, Happy quits golf, takes up the bottle, and just basically becomes a raging alcoholic, loses all of his money, ends up getting sued because he beats up a guy that he thinks is stealing his car, but he's just a repo man who's coming to repossess Sandler's cars because he's lost all his money and can't pay for shit anymore and can't pay the bills. So eventually he lives in this rundown little house with his daughter, Victoria? something like that, or is the daughter Vivian and the mom was Victoria? I can't remember. But anyway, he lives there with his daughter. His 4 sons, which are older than the daughter, are off living on their own, working on their own to try and help support the whole family because Happy is obviously fallen on hard times. And his 4 sons' names are Wayne, Gordy, Terry, and what was the other one? Bobby. So they're all named after like old school hockey players, right? Some of them nasty pieces of work too. And they're the exact same as Happy. They're like just like violent, always wanting to fight, and oh hey, that's so funny. So Happy comes home one night and he sees his daughter on the front porch doing her ballet dance moves, and her teacher is watching her, and he talks to the teacher afterwards, and he's like, so how's she doing? And she's like, she's unbelievable. Like, she needs to go somewhere to do this. Like, she's too good. So she's like, there's actually some, I can't remember the name of the school, but an outfit in France that if she wants to go, they're reserving a spot for her. She's that good. It's $75,000 a year. He's like, go. So drunk John Daly is living in Happy Gilmore's garage. And so he gets in a bit of a chat with him. He's like, you know what you got to do? You got to get back on that golf tour and earn that money. So, but Happy's like, no, I can't do that. Because he's just got all this guilt and horror lingering with golf after killing his wife with a golf ball, right? So, but he wants to see his daughter do well. So he gets back on the course, practices a bit, starts regaining things. He meets up with Chubbs' son Slim, who he hopes can provide himself Happy with some tutelage and get him back into the mix. And so eventually he gets in an accident on the golf course, ruins a golf cart, and so he's basically, you can't join the tour if you're going to be a mess like this. So you need to stop being violent, stop punching people, and you need to get off the booze. So he goes to like an Alcoholics Anonymous type thing, and the guy that leads it is Ben Stiller, who is the character from the retirement home during the first Happy Gilmore that was terrorizing all the old people, including Happy's grandma, right? So he leads this, and his methods are just ridiculous, and Happy's just like, are you fucking okay? Like, what is wrong with you, right? So he's going through this, and he's getting support from the people in it, and he's trying to not be violent. So eventually he's able to get on the tour and whatever, and he's doing well. So what's coming in the down the pipe here is that there's a rival golf league. So it's meant to probably be like signify the live golf, right? So it's called the Maxi Golf League or something like that. So there's a guy who makes this energy drink called Maxi something. So, and he's the guy that's putting this league together. And this guy looks like he's like a carrot top looking motherfucker, and he's so funny in this movie. And so he comes to Happy Gilmore and he says, I want you in my league. I want you on my tour. And Happy's just like, no, like your league is ridiculous. So when Happy gets on the tour and he's talking to Doug, the guy that runs it, who is from the first movie, Doug's expressing concern about this Maxi League, possibly putting the PGA out of business or significantly cutting into it anyways. And so they're at this kind of banquet or whatever with all the golfers. So all the current guys are there, like Scotty Scheffler and Brooks Koepka and Deschambault, all those guys. And so Happy comes up with the idea like, well, if you're worried about them being better than us and putting us out of business, why don't we just challenge them and show them that we're better? So they're like, perfect. Yeah, we could put 5 of our best golfers against 5 of their best golfers. So, oh, and I should say, spoiler alert here, right? If you haven't figured it out yet. So Happy goes on the tour, and he's trying to get into that top 5 so he can be in this challenge against the Maxi Golf League, right? So he's doing really well. He's up. He finally climbs to the top. But on the last day of the tour, it's Mother's Day. So he starts having all these flashbacks of his wife and how he killed her and stuff. So he starts drinking again, and he blows it, and he ends up finishing 6th. So he doesn't make the cut to play against Maxi Golf. But the guy that did win and passed him, Bobby Jenkins, I think was his name, he reveals that he was undercover and he's actually golfing for Maxi Golf. So Happy is bumped into the top 5 by default with this guy leaving, right? So, but he has to get his shit together. So he does that, and so the face-off begins. And the Maxi Golf League is like ridiculous. It's like golf to the extreme. Like, there's fireworks going off. The last hole that the whole movie comes down to, it's got this big tilty thing on it. Like, you know what I mean? Like, it's just ridiculous things going on in this golf match. So the last part of the movie is just this whole showdown with the 5 PGA guys against the 5 Maxi Golf guys, and it's fucking hilarious. And I'm not going to tell you how it ends because it's a really cool, fun, exciting ending. But the whole thing was a pleasure to watch all the way through. And so many cameos. Like a lot of the guys of Sandler's original crew, like Rob Schneider and those guys. Kevin Nealon was back. So many guys. I can't remember them. And they pay homage to a couple of guys. Like, remember the big brute with the nail in his head? His son is there, and said, yeah, Dad died, but I wanted to be here. He really loved you and whatever. And then remember the guy that I was always like, jackass, that Shooter hired. So his son shows up, and he's played by Eminem. And he's trying to fuck Happy up. And and the whole Shooter, I forgot Shooter plays into it. He's in a mental institution because after losing to Happy in the original movie, he went to the loony bin, and but he eventually gets sprung by the guy that runs Maxi Golf because he wants Shooter to come into his fold. But Shooter's like, fuck you, you're crazy. And he takes off. So he's kind of on the lam because he's technically still kind of loony. And he ends up meeting up with Happy. And after they come to blows and fight, they end up like burying the hatchet. And Shooter kind of comes onto their team to help train the 5 guys, the PGA guys, in going up against these Maxi League guys. So he was pretty funny in it too. So many cameos, so many funny moments. There's a couple wrestlers in the movie. Becky Lynch was one of the Maxi Golf competitors, which was cool. I also heard Nikki Bella was in it, but I didn't see her during the movie, so I think she must have a really brief appearance, but I want to watch it again and see if I can find her. But it's one of those movies where there's so much going on all the time that I know I miss stuff, right? So I want to go back and watch it at least once more, maybe a couple times more, and try and pick up on everything. So I really loved it. I thought it was hilarious. I thought, because sequels to movies are usually inferior to the originals, right? And when you have something like this where it's 30 years between them, usually that makes it even worse, right? But in this case, I think that Sandler put together an amazing story, an amazing script, and the laughs were there, the cameos were there. They stayed pretty true to the original film and what Happy was all about, and I just thought it was amazing. And his wife and 2 or 3 daughters were in the film. So one daughter played one of the main characters, his actual daughter in the movie, and his wife played his daughter's dance instructor, and then the other girls were in it as well in different roles. So I thought that was really cool because he always tends to put his friends in his movies and let them experience and be involved. So it's kind of neat that he's also doing that with his family, right? So I know a lot of people shit on people like Adam Sandler for like being immature goofball comedy, but you know what? There's a reason his movies do so well. A lot of fucking people like that kind of humor. There's nothing wrong with it. So I listened to all these high horse comments and I'm like, fuck off. These people are probably woke idiots as well, right? Probably. So, but anyways, I know it got mixed reviews. I can understand why some people may not love it. Not necessarily that they would hate it, but I could see how, they still don't like it as much as the original because the original is such a masterpiece. But again, for the fact that it's a sequel and it's 30 years in the making, I thought it was amazing. I laughed my ass off. And yeah, like I said, I can't wait to watch it again. So yeah, I guess it did the job for me. Anyways, that's the 5 things I've been up to recently. Already got 2 more down, 3 more to go, so I'll be back.
Meow.